I'm trying to put together a whole kind of program around an education. Like, what can you do if you want to be active till the day you die? And you're crushing it. So, got Fred Reynolds, 70 years old.
Today?
Today? Today's your birthday? Oh, I was like, that's dope.
So when I leave for Aconcagua, I'll be about 70 and a half.
70 and a half?
Yeah.
Right on. So Aconcagua is basically a 7,000 meter peak. Comes in just under.
Just shy.
It's the highest peak in the southern hemisphere.
And western.
And west. Oh, really?
And highest peak in the world outside of
Asia.
You can say Asia or the Himalayas, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's really tall.
It's up there.
And so what I want to learn is kind of tell me about Aconcagua. How'd that come up? You're climbing Aconcagua at 70. Stuff.
Well, so I did Kilimanjaro last year.
Mm-hmm.
Did we talk about that?
Not really. Go ahead.
Yeah. So on the YouTube channel, I did put together Kilimanjaro. It's in 3 parts.
Mm-hmm.
I could not just tell a 20-minute story.
Yeah.
And I wanted to give people as much of an experience that I had as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I watched 117 Kilimanjaro videos before I left. So, I felt like I knew a lot of the steps on the way.
Mm-hmm.
The part and I went with a group out of Berkeley, California, Wilderness Travel, and they have stuff all over the world.
Yeah.
But I think this is right. Excuse me, Kili is the only one of the 7 summits that they do. So
okay.
I'm with a different outfitter. We'll talk about that later with Aconcagua. But the funny part about Kili was that we were up at camp. Our second camp, which is Shira Plateau Camp.
Mm-hmm.
There's Camp 1 and 2 called Shira Plateau. Camp 1, beautiful views of, if you watch even the first segment of
I'll check it out. Yeah.
My video, we came around a corner hiking the second day. And there was Kili. Now, clouds at the time, clouds ended up parting. The sunrise in the morning was just freaking spiritual.
Yeah.
It was, I got goosebumps again thinking about it, but it was so cool.
Yeah.
But in 2020, I'm going to back up a little bit, but I had a life experience. I'll just leave it at that.
All right.
Relationship oriented.
Got it.
A little expansion there.
Yeah.
But I didn't do well. And from the standpoint of a mental health thing, it was maybe about 5 months after that happened. I had the Wilderness Travel Kilimanjaro catalog on my coffee table. And as I kind of jokingly say, it kept jumping off the table. And,
yeah.
And in September, I got home from the work, and this is 2020.
Yep.
And got home from work, and I said, I'm in. Called him, gave my credit card deposit. A year later, I'm leaving for.
Have you ever climbed any like tall mountaineering kind of stuff?
No.
So you're
the closest I guess you could say I've been is I did Whitney.
Yeah.
In 2012, I did that in a day, which was.
That's a day.
Stupid. Yeah.
That's a big day. So you went from.
So that's 14,505. That's the highest I have been.
Mm-hmm.
And I did fine.
And Kili's 19.
19,341. There were 6 guests, 3 guides, 2 chefs, and 39 porters.
Sick.
And of the 6 guests, I was the only one that did not have any issues with altitude.
Sweet.
And I think 2 things. One, I live at altitude.
Mm-hmm.
I don't live at 18,000 feet.
It's different, yeah.
But I live at altitude, and then the pace at which you go is, so part 2 of my Kili video I did, I talk about the pace and how excruciatingly slow it is.
Mm-hmm.
Millie, who's in the car, my trainer, but we've been doing some interval training up at PCMR
Yeah.
with backpack on that I'll be carrying. And again, difference between Aconcagua and Kili. Kili, you have porters. Aconcagua, you have yourself.
How heavy is that backpack? Ish?
I was at 43 pounds.
And that's how you'll be around 40 pounds.
Yep.
Fully packed.
Right.
Ribbon up.
Right.
Woo, that's a heavy pack.
And I'll come back to that in a bit. But, you know, Millie and I would go up from the base of PCMR up there. It's about, 2,300 feet of vert, which is a good metric.
Mm-hmm.
With Kili, in that I wasn't carrying 36 pounds, I had a different pack on. So we were doing that in about an hour and 45 minutes. Okay.
Yep.
And it's 3.5, 3.6 miles from the base the way. And I went up the service road pretty much the entire way.
Yeah.
And you have more straight up stuff rather than doing switchbacks on like a mountain bike.
Yep.
Trail. And Lord knows I don't want to tick off the mountain bikers. But, and again, you did that in an hour and 45 minutes. 2,300 feet of vert. That met, 3.6 or 7 miles up. That same metric on Kilimanjaro, at least twice as long.
So you're going like 4 hours about for the same.
Or 5 or 6. So there were a couple of days, and if you watch the video, I downloaded an app called Relive. I don't know if you ever heard of it. So anyhow, it's GPS, and it's pretty cool. And so at the start of each day, I kind of did a quick narration of, we covered 5.5 miles. It took us 6 hours, and we gained 2,300 feet of vertical.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see.
And you can track it. I have seen that. Yeah.
That's cool. I like it.
It's pretty cool visual.
So I think a lot of people said that was really a good visual.
Yeah.
For what we did. But that same metric, it took forever. I got scolded, I know of at least twice. Like, Fred, come on back.
Yeah.
You're going too fast. And again, they're the professionals.
Mm-hmm.
You're not.
Yeah.
You're the guest.
Just listen to their advice.
And, dial it back, Fred.
Yeah.
But it was, I was the first one to the sign.
Mm-hmm.
I was not going to be denied that.
I like it.
And I can say, so kind of leading up to Aconcagua, I touched that sign. Granted, I was going up for mental health therapy.
Yeah, I get it.
I can tell you I experienced that.
Mm-hmm.
And I can also tell you that I saw light. And hey,
this is a big moment.
You're going to climb more mountains.
Yeah.
And
so you're 68 at that point?
69.
You're 69 when you climbed Kili?
Kili. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In 20. Okay, sweet.
So in 2012, when I did Whitney, I was 60.
60.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the start of your higher elevation, kind of mountaineering, high elevation walking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I moved here in 2005.
Okay.
And I think I skied, golfed, mountain biked mostly.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until really when I was 60 that I kind of kicked it up to get up higher.
Yeah.
And you went to stuff and things like that was Moab, whatever.
Yeah.
But I got a lot of therapy out of that.
Yeah.
And
I completely understand the mental health side of that.
And for instance, my YouTube channel, Fred Reynolds, and I have a tagline: 1 foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
And anything you do in life, you're going to have to put 1 foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
Relative to your theme, I look at myself and I moved from Park City to Camas because somebody offered me stupid money for my place. And I said, back.
Sweet. Yeah, I understand that.
Paid cash in Camas, and
Yeah,
and kind of living the dream, I guess you could say.
that's awesome,
But
dude.
no mortgage, no car payment, no debt. It's not a bad.
It's a good setup.
It's not a bad way to go to bed at night, wake up.
No, not at all.
But I bought in a little development. It's not big. I think there's 20 residences. And some are attached. No, well, all of them are attached. Some are 2, some are 4. But you have to be 55 to buy and live.
Okay.
So a little bit of a quote senior development.
Yeah.
But it's just I look at one guy that lives there that he's at least my age or maybe a little younger.
Mm-hmm.
And just to see him walk is to some degree painful.
Yeah, he's super unsteady, kind of.
Yeah.
He couldn't go out and hike that piece anymore. That's kind of what you're saying.
That would be a fact.
Yeah. And so that leads into why I want to talk to you.
Sure.
So wrap things up on Killy. That's awesome. Mental health, like discovering that. I think that's a really important piece of longevity and being able to do things until the day you die, whether you're 100, 105, 70, like whatever. And that's what I'm interested in. What do you attribute you being able to, at 70, go up Aconcagua? Because most of the 70-year-olds in the U.S.
are playing golf or fishing and reading a book and sitting in a chair being sedentary.
Yeah, and like fishing, golfing, like that's awesome. If you're 70 and still doing that, that's sweet. But it's different to be able to go up Aconcagua. So basically a 7,000-meter peak, the highest peak in the southern hemisphere in the western half of the world. So like what if you have you thought about that? Like why? How are you still able to do it?
So where I've lived in Park City, up the street, I still friends. We still stay in touch. But a gal that had moved in and sold, and she's back in Southern California now. But she is younger than me, but she's climbed all 7 summits.
Mm-hmm.
And she did a little bit for I'll say mental health as well. But she had, when I talked about Killy, I said, how many times have you done Killy? And she said, oh, I've been up there 6 times. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
She goes, but you'll have a blast.
Mm-hmm.
And then I brought up Aconcagua, and she goes, such a fun mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You leave 14,000 feet, which is the base camp.
Yep.
You start at 7 and change.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a grind, trek just to base camp. So it's not too overly
you're buying 7,000 feet of vert.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, just to get base camp set up.
That's a good way of putting it. And Plaza de Mula's base camp on Aconcagua is the second largest base camp to Everest.
Yeah.
In size, but there are 3 high camps.
Mm-hmm.
First one's about 2,200 feet of vert above Plaza de Mulas.
Yep.
The next one is not too much higher, Camp 2.
Do you want like
1,300?
14,000 to mid-16s to mid-17s, something like that.
And then you end up Camp 3, Camp Colera, I think it is. And I believe the English translation to that is angry or rage.
Yeah, windy.
And I think it's an angry campground.
Yeah, I understand that.
But it's at just shy of 20.
Okay.
So summit morning, you're doing 3,300 feet of vert.
Yeah, because the
lesser pack.
Feet, it's so it's 6,900 and change meters.
Right, 22,830.
22,830.
I've seen 22,837, 838, 841. So somewhere in that
22,800 feet. It's tall.
Yeah. It's up there.
Sweet.
So you're tickling 23, and you shouldn't need oxygen.
Yep.
Do they carry it? Yeah.
Just in case.
Just in case.
Yeah.
But the prep has been, I think, for anything you do.
Mm-hmm.
What do they say? Sometimes it's not so much the destination, it's the journey.
Yeah. Let's talk about
So,
that. What have you done
so
since Keeley to prepare for Aconcagua? Like,
sure,
what's your training look like?
it's hard.
Yeah.
But the physical part isn't the hard part.
Hmm.
It's the mental part, I think.
Yeah. Tell me about that. What do you
To
mean?
to you get out of bed, okay? It's me and Millie, right?
Yeah. Millie's his dog, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's me and Millie. So I don't have, Mrs. Reynolds, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, get out of bed, do your training.
Yeah.
I can, and I said this uh, uh, in my last LinkedIn post for Fridays with Fred, but there are times when you just, this is far. I know that this is where I want to go,
Hmm.
but maybe today I'll just dial it back to here.
Yeah.
But as I always say, somebody's watching.
Yeah.
Somebody's always
Yeah.
watching.
So I got that inner voice. Ooh, you know.
Tap on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Dude, you're not done yet.
Yeah.
Um, it's, and that's the hard part. So, since maybe May,
Hmm.
um, came out of the gym, from the gym, I was just I do a lower body and an upper body, and I alternate days.
Let's break that down.
So,
Just like briefly describe what your lower body day looks like.
sure.
What kind of stuff are you doing?
So I always do cardio.
Yep.
I want to make sure
Some sort of machine.
No, so Basin Rec has a
Yep. There's a
indoor
track.
track upstairs, and I also do, for the lack of a better term, at my ripe, and I also have recoined, that 70-year. I call myself 70 years young.
I love it. Yeah, it's a good mindset.
And again, I think spinning it also helps, and I also call this your kitchen.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you do in life, but this is your kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And if your kitchen's messy, chances are things might be messy.
Yeah.
So how do you get keep your kitchen clean, if you will?
I like that.
When I'm doing cardio on that track, I do bursts, usually it's on the back side of the track.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how long that is, but it could be 50 yards.
Yeah, so like walk the end, sprint the straight, something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that raises my heart rate,
Mm-hmm.
and then my heart rate goes back down. Raise the heart rate, lower the heart rate.
Yep.
So that, from a cardio standpoint, I really like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I do at least 3 miles on that track doing that.
Okay, cool.
And that can be...
And doing intervals the whole time.
Yep.
Yeah, so just walk a bit, run a bit,
Yep.
walk a bit, run a bit. Whatever interval feels good. It doesn't matter how long or short the interval is.
Knock on this.
This is what.
But, I've never had really bad knee problems.
Yep.
No back problems.
That's awesome, man.
This ankle has always been a mess, but
everybody's got something.
It's working.
You're managing it.
Lower body, I work on quads,
mm-hmm.
my hams, my adductors, my abductors.
And so are you doing this in a Nautilus type machine?
Correct.
So like extensions, curls, squeezers,
correct.
spreaders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool.
And I work on my calves as well.
Yep.
Now, I do that on machines, and then I'll also do like kettlebells.
Are you doing
and squats and...
Perfect. Are you doing like 3 sets of what?
So
high volume, low volume,
sure.
high weight, low weight?
I don't want to twang something.
Yeah, I get it.
So, the weight intervals certainly have gone up, and I know what I'm capable of doing.
So you've been progressively increasing your weight.
Exactly.
Since you've been in the gym.
So once I can reach, a certain weight level, and I'll just pick on leg presses.
Yep.
I'm pressing 275.
Sweet.
And I'll start at 2 sets of 12.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I'll do 2 sets of a 12 and a 15.
Yep.
And then I'll do a 12, 12 and a 15.
So you're just adding volume to that right now.
Once I get to 15, 15, and 15, then I'll bump up the weight.
So that's your progressive overload. Is you're keeping it in that middle rep range of 12 to 15 reps.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get 3 by 15, jump the weight.
Yep.
You jump in like 10%, or do you have a method to your madness?
10 pounds.
10 pounds, perfect.
Again,
A little bit heavier.
70 years young.
Yeah, yeah.
You'll hear that plenty of times. But it's, again, I want to be careful. And I think being careful has helped me to get to where I am today.
And I think that's important. The most important aspect of any training is, can you consistently do it? If you hurt yourself, you can't train for a week, a month, 3 months, depending on how bad you hurt yourself. So consistency is the most important piece of this.
Oh, sure. And again, you could be your age and, me being my age, but I had another bout of...
You're good.
Another bout of skin cancer pop up.
Mm-hmm. Recently.
Yep. And unzip that. Sorry about that.
No, no worries at all. Perfect.
Pop up, and so I had surgery, and they took a chunk out of my chest area.
Yeah.
And I couldn't lift anything for 2 weeks, so I walked with Millie flat.
Yep.
And that's what I did for 2 weeks.
You did what you could. You had to modify your training due to injury, illness, whatever that is.
And again, the kitchen. If I didn't have Millie, would I still be motivated for those 2 weeks to go out and walk on flat? Maybe, maybe not.
Millie needs you to.
But Millie's 4-year-old silver lab, and she needs her exercise as well.
Yep.
And so there's something to be said, I think, for that.
Absolutely.
As well.
Finding ways to keep yourself motivated and create it as a habit. So you can feel sorry for yourself for 2 weeks, but Millie doesn't care. She still needs to go for a walk, bro. You got to get out. All right, so that's lower body. What are you doing upstairs?
Upstairs, and again, I'm not bodybuilding.
Yeah, you're just staying fit.
I want to keep tone. What I learned from Kilimanjaro, again, you have trekking poles up and trekking poles down. Summit morning, for instance, going up, oh gosh, you're grinding, you're climbing and stuff like this. Sometimes coming down is worse. And with the group that I went with, and again, this is no dig on them.
Yeah.
But they like to stay in the crater, which was freaking cool.
Yeah.
At 18,838, and let me tell you something. When you go to take breath, it ain't there.
Yeah.
Like what you're
pretty thin.
That you're accustomed to.
Yeah.
But so you only had about 600-700 feet of vert the next morning, which that wasn't easy either. But we were up there with 8 days, 7 nights going up, and we were up there for 21 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was time to go down. 9,000 feet of vert going down.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Days?
Down.
You just did it in a day.
Yeah.
That's a big day down.
That's a big day down. So coming back to upper body.
Yeah. Well, I recently we did car to car up the Grand Teton, me and a buddy. Climbed Gold Face. It was sweet. But that's only like 7,300 feet. And the last mile out was just a mind killer.
Sure.
Your feet are swollen, your knees don't feel good, you're hungry. I ran out of water 2 hours ago.
That's huge.
All sorts of things. And then we hit the car, drink a beer. It's the best beer you've ever had.
Yep.
We went and sat in Cold Lake.
Yep.
But yeah, so 9,000 feet down.
And you could have had 2 pieces of bread with a piece of bologna in it.
That's meal ever.
And it was the greatest sandwich in the history of sandwiches. Yeah. I've been there.
Yeah. So upper body, what we got?
So what I found, then I don't know if it was the next day or the day after. I'm still in Tanzania, but my tries were like, dude,
blown up. You're just
you're down.
Yep. Hitting rocks.
Yep.
Yep.
So I've really been working on my triceps.
Smart.
Working on my shoulders a lot. And I'm also working on my core.
Smart.
So huge here. I mean, I do some bicep work, but it's mainly shoulders and triceps.
Yeah. Sweet. And are you doing like similar, like 12s and 15s, 3 sets?
Yes, correct.
Same kind of deal? Perfect.
Yeah. And again, just keeping tone, I'm sure I've built some muscle, but keeping tone. The other thing I've done is I've put a little bit more weight on because in Kili, I lost close to 25 pounds.
During those 8 days?
Yeah. 9 days, 8 nights, yeah.
And just
So that includes the descent.
yeah,
Yeah.
anybody that's watching this that's not familiar with being at high elevation, it is one of the best ways to lose weight. Sometimes pleasantly, sometimes unpleasantly, depending on how your stomach's doing.
Yeah.
But being at altitude, you burn way more calories just existing. Uh, so yeah, that's smart. It's smart that you realize that.
You burn calories taking a breath.
Yeah.
You know, and to your point, at high altitudes, I didn't know this until I came back.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, Joe Ferreter is my personal physician.
Yeah.
So November 3rd, whatever, a week from Thursday, I have my annual full physical.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I have to get a note from my doctor to give to the.
This is you're healthy enough to climb Aconcagua.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
And Wilderness Travel actually had a form that he had to fill out
Mm-hmm.
and sign. But anyhow, back up to 21, when I did Kili, that was in September, and I saw Joe in same almost time frame, early November. And one of the things I asked him, I said, was, here I was and it really didn't dawn on me as I'll say maybe a couple of the other camps, lower than 18,838. But I got my sleeping bag at 8 o'clock because we had like a 4 a.m. wake up for summiting. And between 8 and 1, I peed 7 times.
Oh, okay.
7 times. Nothing was going in.
Just all coming out.
It was all coming out.
Yeah.
And Joe said that's the body's natural way of dealing with altitude.
It's just, you just pass a lot of fluid.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, it was amazing.
You're lucky it was pee.
No, true.
Honestly.
Yeah, could have been blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too bad and coming out the other end.
Or yeah, exactly.
It can get dicey.
I fortunately did not have any issues with that.
That's awesome.
So
GI issues can make a climb very difficult.
You think? Yeah.
If you're pooping 7 times in 4 hours, it's not great.
That's not going to be great.
Yeah.
But, people said too, did you sleep? And I said, well, at that camp at 18,838, the one prior was at 16,000 feet, Arrow Glacier Camp. The one before that, we spent 2 nights at 15, like 225, Lava Tower Camp. And that really helped with the acclimatization.
Yeah,
so,
they take it slow on Kili, which I think is smart.
So I started down this path. I'm going to back up too. I had been looking at all these videos, especially about the Lemosha route, which is where we started.
Mm-hmm.
And after the Shira camp, we're heading to our 3rd camp. And as we're going across the Shira Plateau, we're now in the caldera of the volcano.
Yeah.
And we're going across the plateau, and Lemosha went this way, and Shira went, Lemosha went this way. We went this way.
Yeah.
And I was like,
this isn't.
So it was that night at Moore Camp, and that was at about 13 and change.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of our people started feeling sick, but we started talking about the Western Breach approach. Now, YouTube Western Breach or Google Western Breach, and it comes up with some pretty interesting stuff.
Okay.
That was exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
There were some pitches that were 59 degrees.
Yeah, so it's pretty steep.
And you were scrambling.
It was like 3rd class,
bouldering.
4th class scramble.
Well, out of 5.
5th would be you would need a rope to do it. If you fell without a rope on, you're gonna die. That's 5th class.
If you slipped in parts of this, you would have died.
Sounds like pretty 4th class.
But it was
a really bad idea to slip, but you could.
So, for instance, from Glacier, Arrow Glacier Camp to Crater Camp, 2,800 feet of vert, 1.8 miles.
All right, yeah.
Took us 9 hours.
Yeah, that's.
And again, going slow.
Mm-hmm.
You could have done it, I'm sure, in 5 or 6, but just that was their approach.
Just to keep the most people feeling as well as they can.
Exactly.
If you overexert at elevation, it can be hard to recover. Recovery is really hard up there.
Yeah. And the night before the Western Breach piece, about 6:45, I was doing my business, behind a rock. Heard a rock slide like you've never heard
Yeah.
in the direction that we're going.
Yeah.
And that was pretty
It keeps things exciting.
eye-opening.
For
Heard
sure.
2 more during the night, but they weren't as bad.
Weren't as big.
But anyhow, again, if you Google Western Breach
I'll check that out.
on Kili, there's an article about, and this guy was a National Geographic photographer.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, yeah, pretty good article.
We'll check
But
that out.
So
what are you doing for cardio training leading up to Aconcagua?
So for instance, after you leave base camp,
mm-hmm.
you do a carry up to Camp 1
mm-hmm.
and come back down. So about 2,200 feet.
And you're stashing gear up there?
Yep.
2,200
feet, come back down the next day, 2,200 feet.
Stay there?
Yep.
Second night?
The next day is about 1,300 feet. Okay.
Yep.
And you have a rest day there.
So you go up to the next camp and you stay there. You're not. That's not an acclimatization.
So 2,200, 1,300 rest.
Yep.
And then you go about 2,400 to Camp 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what I was trying to do with Millie is to mirror that.
Yeah. So
we would start. I had 43 pounds. In fact, I just did it this past week.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know. It's
going
to be interesting to keep, how I'm going to finish the next 5 weeks. But 43 pounds in the backpack. So from parking lot
mm-hmm.
to the top of Bonanza Lift.
Yep.
About 2,300 feet.
Perfect.
If you're in the parking lot.
Yep.
If you're at the bottom of payday, it's whatever, 2,250.
A little bit less, yeah.
But 2,300 feet. So Monday, boom. Tuesday, boom. Wednesday, Angle House.
Yep.
But I went up to the top of payday
mm-hmm.
to the ski patrol shack.
Perfect.
And that was about 1,400 feet.
Yeah.
But we didn't rest, which would be the next day. So this day I did, where the old cannon mount is on Pioneer Ridge.
Yep.
That they, shoot into
mm-hmm.
Jupiter Bowl or Jupiter Peak. So up there,
mm-hmm.
that was about 2,500 feet from the parking lot. And then the next day, lighter pack, because summit morning, I'll only have snacks, maybe some extra clothing, but really it's going to be just a water carry.
Yep.
Fluid carry. So anyhow, go to the peak.
So you're doing
and come down.
2 days of 2,200, 1 day of 1,300, and then one to replicate summit day.
No, 2,400.
2,400.
And then
summit day. So 22, 22, 13, 24, and then how big summit day?
3.
3. Sweet. So you go on 6 days on?
Is that well, I did all 5. We'd have a rest day. In between,
Aconcagua, you will have a rest day.
Right.
Yeah.
So it'll take 6.
Yep. 5 days
like,
of moving.
Like last week, I did 5.
Yep.
Okay.
Just didn't take the rest day last week.
And I did the same thing end of September.
Perfect. And so that's how you're kind of progressing to be like, mentally, I think that gives so much confidence for that kind of mission. Like, you've done it, right? You're lower elevation, but you can do that type of movement, and that's what gives you confidence. Confidence is a mindset that's achieved through action.
Poof.
Like, I think that's
huge.
Very big.
And again, like I said before, the service road that I took,
mm-hmm.
Most of the time, you were
decent pace, just going up.
But it was again straight. You weren't doing this stuff.
Yeah.
Which can take the edge off maybe a little bit, but there are not a lot of times, but there are a few times when I'd say, I ain't feeling it today. Well, Fred, you better feel it.
Yeah, because you don't have an option.
And it's like, instead of shifting down, you're shifting up. And
mm-hmm.
But again.
So I have a question. This is something that
the kitchen
struggle with personally. Is I tell everybody, if you don't feel like training today, at least show up and do the warm up. At least go start. And then if 15, 20 minutes in, you're like, no, I'm sick, or no, it's like this is actually hurting whatever you got going on, then maybe you adjust and change your goal a
Do
little
something
bit.
else.
So yeah, what's your method for that? How do you approach something like that through your training, or have you had to deal with that at all?
I'm going to have to probably say door number two. I haven't really dealt with it. I've
Sweet.
persevered, um, and you know, while we talked a little bit ago, I had the skin cancer removed. 2 weeks where I wasn't supposed to lift anything,
Yeah.
and instead of you know, I kept going though. At least I was taking Millie on 3 mile hikes, and you know, that was my substitute.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Uh, uh,
You would
by way of example, there.
did the same thing at a lower level because you'd gone through something.
Yeah.
So like this past week on Saturday, I was out on a hike with my wife. I was like, something's going on. Sunday, I woke up, my throat was like closed, like hard to swallow water. And that lasted Sunday, Monday. So those 2 days, I took a full rest. And then I adjusted all of my training to be much more moderate all the way through this weekend just to allow my body to recover. But I still went and did everything I was planning on doing for training, except my running. I didn't want to do high cardio and make an upper respiratory move to lower, because
Sure.
that seems counterintuitive. But I was able to continue with my climbing training, my lifting, and I just took longer rests, didn't bring the intensity as high, and then I was able to continue to train. And then yesterday was my first hard day of training. Felt good, had a PR, which it's always nice to get a PR.
No,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, like navigating that, I always tell people go warm up, and if it's still I can't do this, not I don't want to do this, there's a difference. Then you start to just make your adjustments. Go for a walk instead of doing all the vert because you still got to get your steps in.
Sure.
So we got 5 days a week of cardio with that progression. How many days a week were you lifting on top of that?
Same.
Same. So lifting
Same.
5 days a week too.
And I concentrated more on the legs than I did in the uppers. So
Smart. So like
you know.
3-2, kind of lower upper split.
Yep.
And then
Because I know these are going to be doing, you know, I feel a lot more work than these.
yeah, 100%. So looking at being able to, so if I'm climbing Aconcagua when I'm 70, I'm pretty psyched. What were you doing? It's hard to start at 70. It's not too late, but it's hard. So what were you doing in your 50s? Let's start there. What were you doing in your 50s to stay active, stay fit?
Sure.
What did that look like?
You know, 2 kids, grown adults. Brian's 36, Lauren's 33.
Currently?
Yep.
Yeah, cool.
And they live in Alabama.
Sweet.
I have 5 grandchildren.
Sweet.
And I played sports from the time I was a midget.
Yeah, little guy.
You know, I was good at baseball.
Mm-hmm.
I was an intramural guy in college.
Yep.
Did not play at well, excuse me, let me back that up. I was an intramural guy in college. I did play college soccer at San Jose State.
Sweet.
Back in the early 70s. And, you know, that was a great experience. So I had a bit of a brain.
Yeah.
You know. So, you know, I was always moving.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that has given me the luxury of feeling and, you know, I'll say looking the way I do today. You know, I have a lot of people. I ran into a friend at the grocery store Friday or Saturday. Oh, Fred, you look great.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't say this to her, but, you know, I do say to people, you know, the body work might look pretty good. You never know what's going on under the hood.
Yeah.
Because that's the key.
Yeah.
But again, and then Brian coming along, and then Brian played baseball, and he was exceptional at shortstop.
Mm-hmm.
And that was fun to watch. But, you know, through his years, he started when he was 4.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I'm the dad out there helping coach and all that stuff.
So you're out at practice, moving around, throwing balls, fielding balls.
And there weren't many days when, even with practice or games, that we didn't play catch and stuff like that. So,
cool.
So
you're super active while your kids were little.
I can't say super,
yeah,
but active.
You're still moving.
Yep.
Was there
And
ever a point where you went through a period where there was no physical activity, where like career took over, life took over?
I could say maybe in my 40s,
Hmm.
I had, I'm going to use this term, a brain fart,
Yeah.
you
All
know,
right. Yeah.
and
Just kind of sat down for a little while.
and yeah,
How long was that period?
I know when I was 50, things really kicked up a notch,
Physical
and
activity wise?
physical activity wise,
Sweet.
and when I was, basically for my 60th birthday, I went up Whitney,
Yeah.
and
So what were you doing in your
again,
50s? Like when you kicked it up, what did you kick it up to? What
I
were you
think it was
doing?
just ordinary everyday activity.
So
I've always been. Let me back up. Um, uh, blah, 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 2005, 17. For the last 17 years ish,
Mhm.
um, it's the longest stint
So it
that
make you like 53,
53,
52, something like that. Yeah. The
longest
longest stint.
stint that I've been involved in a gym.
Okay, so you've had a gym membership for at least the last 17 years
Yep.
consistently, and you
Yes.
used it.
Yep.
So that's huge.
Yep.
So you can kind of float through this. So this is backed by research too. You can kind of float through your 40s and still like, oh, 50, I better start. If you float through your 40s and your 50s, you can still start in your 60s, but it's harder. So you can stack the deck in your favor to have a body that functions better, can do more stuff. And it doesn't have to be hard things. It just has to be consistently doing something to keep your muscular mass there. So 17 years of a gym membership, using that, starting around age 53. And that's probably the best gift you've ever given your 70-year-old self, was
Sure.
making that decision.
Sure.
So you're doing gym stuff, doing some lifting, some cardio. Are you doing any sports at that time?
In
Just like
if
recreation,
sport, sure,
like mountain biking.
mountain biking. Let's see, 2008 and 12, I did the Mid Mountain Marathon.
Sweet.
Um, so let me, sometimes things are starting to kick in.
Yeah, it's 20 years ago, man.
So I use the phrase, let me back the truck up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I would say going back to my 30s,
Hmm.
30s, I started running 5Ks.
Okay.
So 5K segued into occasional 10K.
Yep.
And then that segued into an occasional half marathon.
Yep.
And then I think I've done about 12 fulls.
12 full marathons. Yeah. So you've been active from a cardio standpoint, just kind of lifelong cardio athlete.
Yeah.
In some sense.
Yeah.
In your 30s, were you lifting at all when you were doing?
I'm going to say no.
No.
I don't recall that. In my 50s, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Sweet. So you started lifting weights in your 50s,
Mm-hmm.
which if you don't lift weights, you have to lift weights if you want to function as an older adult or a younger 70-year-old. That's what will make you a younger 70-year-old. I believe that the lifting is very, very
Sure.
important. It's not, some people scoot by, like we know people here in Park City that are in their 60s and they ski every day, they mountain bike every day. You'll never see them in a gym.
Sure.
And that works for some people. It's awesome. Other people,
Everybody's built different.
Everybody's built different. Other people in their 40s, that blows up. They've been performing at a high level, and then like your back, your hips, your knees, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You can maintain those by doing gym work for sure.
Well, and then, granted, this chair might be a little bit bigger, and then it gets God, it looks really comfortable to sit in.
It's real comfortable, man.
And then it gets a little harder to get out of. But
yeah.
I mean, if you choose to live somewhat of a sedentary life.
Yeah. So what kept you interested, motivated, involved in staying active, staying physical? Kind of, you're 70 now, so throughout, because a lot of people sit down in their 30s, right? They just they stop doing the thing. What kept you doing the thing? Was it intentional? Was it accidental? How'd it happen?
Well, I mean, today at 11:50 on this Monday morning in October, it is intentional.
Yeah.
Because I have a drive.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, much different goals than some other 70-year-olds. So
yeah.
Or even 60-year-olds. But I like it, and
Mhm.
it really gives me something to look forward to every single day.
Yep.
Um, it's again, there are times when you don't want to do it,
Mhm.
but you
Keep
just have to
pushing.
make sure that you keep mentally uh, strong
Yeah.
and persevere over the you know what was it, National Lampoon?
Yeah. A little voice over your shoulder.
Remember
Yeah.
the two guys?
100%.
Yeah. So I got to keep
Just get them off there.
the devil off of me. But
Yeah.
I feel good about myself every single day.
Mhm.
Um, I get back from Aconcagua Christmas Eve morning.
Sweet.
Now, granted, I'll start skiing a lot,
Yeah.
um, and I probably won't go back into the gym maybe until April,
Mhm.
and just ski.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that'll
Perfect.
be my recreating. But next year I have Everest Base Camp on the schedule.
Is it
Um,
how important
and
is it for you to have a goal just to keep training?
I think
Is that a piece of it?
I think it's very important.
Mhm.
You know, uh, I've watched some I did a piece, Kilimanjaro after the hike,
Mhm.
and you see that on my YouTube channel as well. But it's it kept me going,
Yeah.
to have that goal, and to say, hey, if I'm going to do that, I got to put the work in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I said earlier, sometimes it's not so much the goals; it is the journey
Yep.
that can be rewarding.
For sure.
But you can't get out of bed. And again, a few people have said this, and there are some younger people. And again, I'm just going to pick on you,
Pick on me. I
that
love it.
look just like you, or is in great shape like you, and they can't get up there.
Yeah.
And
Didn't put the work in.
altitude can be a factor.
Yep.
Some people think, oh, I can do this as a piece of cake.
Just walking.
Yeah, and altitude will kick your ass.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But uh, I think it's you can't get out of bed and do stuff like that. I think some people think that. And
Yeah.
I don't care if you're 20 or if you're, like I was,
You need a training base.
69.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's quite a.
right. I was the oldest in our group. Um, if you watch segment 3, I did a little. We had just gotten down,
Mhm.
and we're doing they had a reception lunch, and we got our certificate and stuff. But I
Sick.
interviewed our 3 guides. Our main guide, Samia, it was his 381st summit,
Wow.
and he's been doing it since '94.
Yeah.
So he gave me the nickname of Mountain Madness,
Mountain Madness. I like it.
and he said that I was, extremely well prepared and one of the strongest
Yeah.
of the
That feels
climbers.
good.
Yeah.
That feels real
No,
good.
uh,
Yeah. Sweet.
rewarding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, uh, if you could, I gotta run here in a
Yep.
second. If you could tell 30 or 40-year-old you like one thing to set yourself up so at 70 you can be doing what you're doing, like what would that advice be?
Have the discipline to be in a gym.
Mm-hmm.
I think it starts there.
Okay. Yeah.
You got a destination,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not downstairs, which is really convenient, but you got to get in your car and you got to go someplace.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of it too. But get in the gym, get that activity going, and again have that discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Another piece that I will just say that I've done with this training, and I wish I had done it before,
Yeah.
is I have a training journal.
So you can look back like
I journal every day.
hit it. Yeah.
Every day.
So get in the
So
gym, write down what you're doing, and you can track that over time. It's cool to look back if you start when
no, sure.
10 years ago and you look back and you've got 10 training journals. You can see all the work you put into be where you're at now. So,
You know, the 2x12s or the 1x12, 1x15.
yeah,
You know,
keep track of it.
eventually 3x15. You know, and you know the weights and your progression and as you increase and whatnot. But that I think is a huge piece because it forces you to look back at what you did that day.
Yeah.
And you know, we all complain about, you know, I just don't have the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm sorry, everybody has the time.
Yeah, and I'd like to point out that until about 4 months ago, Fred was working full time,
Full
right?
time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this is possible with a full on career. He just retired in this past July. Congrats.
Thank you.
So leave it at that. Get a gym membership, track what you're doing, don't stop moving.
Well, and I said this to you on the phone. You know, I think they pick on the shark. You know, if a shark stops swimming, it dies.
Yeah.
So I kind of consider myself a shark.
Be a shark, kids. I like it. Thanks, dude. This is awesome.
No,